So what you've seen of Singapore, yeah, what's special or different about Singapore in terms of dating?
Dating environment?
Or if there's nothing that's interesting too.
I like the place. I haven't been thinking, I don't know, too much about it from a dating environment, because I don't think there's anything especially different from other places. When I went to, South Korea, I met like some very alpha guys, and I noticed there was a clear difference. In Singapore, I don't think there's anything too different in terms of your chances. If it's harder or easier than being in England. From talking to some of the local guys, I don't think that's the case. So I wouldn't think there's too much in the way things work,
so
or what women
does it
want.
Does it feel like London or like a cosmopolitan city?
Yeah, it just feels like a big city. So I think that it's tough for the guys. I think it's tough in London. It's tough in New York. I don't think it's super easy, but I think it's the same as anywhere else. If you get the skills and actually put in some effort, you're going to get goals.
Well, one thing you'll see in the forums and the layers is that these pickup techniques, or these dating techniques, were written by Westerners in a Western context for Westerners, and it doesn't translate well here. And then what's funny is sometimes you'll see that the person who's writing admits that he's never been to a nightclub before, but he thinks it just wouldn't work. But anyway, what would be your answer to that?
Well, I dated lots of Chinese girls, and I did think it was slightly different. I think that you can't be so cocky. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the cocky stuff doesn't work so well. It's you shouldn't be so aggressive, and they appreciate a gentleman more than. Not saying totally, they appreciate, like, that's the main thing they want is a gentleman, but they appreciate more towards the gentleman type than towards the cocky, arrogant arsehole guy that would get all the girls in LA or somewhere like that. That's kind of my take on the difference. But in terms of, you're talking to a girl and how do you go for the kiss, it's no different. Or how do you make the conversation interesting? I would just say take away some of that edge and the cockiness.
Yeah.
You think that's about right?
So yeah, you definitely want to dial down the edginess, the cockiness.
Yo, what up, girls? How's it going?
Yeah, that's not great. And yeah, that's a great point about the chivalry, the gentleman part of it, because a lot of women in Asia, especially in Singapore, are more effeminate, more feminine. So they'd appreciate a man who can treat them in softer, more gentle ways, I've noticed. And one part of that is not getting really aggressive physically, especially at the beginning, just because there's also a bigger polite zone in most Asian societies. I think one thing that people are concerned about are the verbal techniques, like these routines. Would they work if I were to tell a girl C's versus U's? Is that going to work?
No, well, they don't work in a lot of places. I've been to 44 countries, I think, something like that. And that generally, the LA, it works. Stupid girl in LA definitely works. The further you get away from that culture, the less it works in terms of the original mystery method routines that were developed in Hollywood. But in terms of general principles of what girls find attractive, there's a lot more similarity there. But yeah, definitely if you're still using those routines just because someone in Hollywood said they work, it's quite crazy. Of course you should try it before you say it doesn't work though. Anyone that reads something and says this won't work is not learning in the right way. Because I used to read something and think, I don't think that will work, but I'm going to go and see. And I started to be surprised. Maybe 30% of the time, something that I thought would never worked really well. So, that's a way to learn a lot.
Yeah. So that's why I mentioned that thing about they'll say they haven't even tried it yet, but they just discard it because of the person delivering the message. So this is, in philosophy, we call this ad hominem arguments. All right, we're going to move into the Q&A section. We'll take a little break. Okay, so welcome back. This is the Q&A portion of Inside the Players Lounge with Richard Gambler. And now we're going to open it up to the floor for any questions. So who would like to go first?
It's a follow-up to the question about the difference of girls between different countries. So, in your opinion, in terms of like taboo to this or attitude to the sex? Do you see a difference?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So let me just repeat it for the camera. So the question is, in terms of differences between countries, is there a taboo towards sex in Singapore?
Yeah,
Is that what you're asking?
Or in Singapore specifically, or just generally all over?
Or-
In Singapore specifically.
Yeah, figured. Okay.
I think that, you know, it's on a scale of how comfortable and open girls are with sex, and or guys as well, I guess. You know, English are quite famous for being quite reserved.
I heard.
Although you can't see that sometimes on a Friday, Saturday night. But you know, talking about sex and things is, you know, it's less common in England. In Brazil, girls are very sexual. In Sweden, the girls are super sexual, and they don't have the, you know, the worry about being a slut. And then, yeah, then there's places more, you know, towards the conservative end of the scale, and I would say that, yeah, Singapore is towards the conservative end.
It's easy for you in Singapore because your city is your country to think that in terms of country-specific stereotypes, but I would say Singapore is more liberal than many places in the United States towards sex.
Some things are better here, some things are worse. It's a very nice place, you know. You've got it much better than many countries in many ways. And I think if you try and find all of the reasons why, you know, you're worse off or Singapore's worse, it's just the wrong, you know, the wrong way to look at things. If there are guys here that have, if it's possible to have, you know, the life here that you'd like, then make it happen. If it's not, then go somewhere else. You know, if you're living in a very small place with just a bunch of horrible, ugly, fat girls, then yeah, sure. But this is a, you know, an international, cosmopolitan, big population, beautiful place, very nice. You know, so.
And it's like a big population, so that there are going to be women in the heartland who are very conservative, especially if they're religious. The Muslim population that observes are going to be really, they're not going to want to talk about sex.
If you want to find a dirty chick, then it's going to be possible as well. You've got everything here.
That's right. You got a good spectrum, a little bit for everybody.
If that's what you really want.
Yeah.
Turn the camera. Girls beware.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Until 21 years old, you're having like unsuccessful with women, right? So after that, when you started like approaching women, what are some of the difficulties that you faced, and how do you overcome?
Disaster. It was terrible. Now, I was talking to these guys here, and it was, you know, the first approaches are never going to be smooth or good. Sometimes a girl's going to be just nice, and she's just going to be, you know, she's not interested, but she doesn't want to be rude to you, so she'll let you talk to her, you know. But the early days, I was doing everything wrong, you know. So I was approaching and just being really still, and I was sweating, and you know, she would be able to see that I was nervous. I wouldn't be able to hold eye contact, and I'd keep breaking eye contact, and pretty much every problem that I could have, I had at some stage.
Yeah, I think people look at you and they see the long hair, they see you're like cover of Harlequin romance novels kind of looking guy, right? And you're reasonably tall for Indonesia anyway. So they just assume that you had all of these advantages when you started out. I think some of these guys. So we could show like really crappy photos of you from before and all that.
I've got all that stuff.
Yeah. It's just like I get the same thing. They say, well, that's because Dave has this accent and he looks this way.
I saw that comment on YouTube and I was like, for God's sake, guys, you know, you know, if anyone in this room has a problem with their appearance or any limiting factor, the only way I would want to hear it is if you've done everything you can to overcome it and it's still a problem. All right? If you say that you don't think you're attractive enough, and you've got the world's best fashion, you know, you're going to the gym, you've got great hairstyle, and you're looking the best that you can, and it's still a problem, then come and tell me, and maybe it's a real issue. But if you've not done anything, you don't really bothered, and then you're like, oh, but you get good more girls because you've got a good haircut. You can't use an excuse like that.
It's the haircut.
I did a lot of work, many, even really strange things that no one else would think of. Very strange.
Really?
Things. Yeah.
Like you mean like what?
You mean like, I don't know what he means. Yeah, I used to watch. I used to think about Hollywood heartthrobs and attractive guys, and I used to model their mannerisms, facial expressions, gestures, body language, everything like that. So I would literally practice in front of the mirror to have better control of how I looked. How extreme did you go? Did you do Adam Sandler impersonations? No, because he's not.
Did that work? So like you were saying like really weird. Oh, Joe Pesci.
No, of course not.
Well, so I know what you're saying, but like, what was the hardest one that you tried?
I don't know. They weren't that hard. But if you look at Tom Cruise, for example, nothing he does is real. Even when he's doing an interview, he's acting. He's got very good control over his body. There's no way he's just going to have some nervous tick or some strange looking face. He's got his thinking face, and he's practiced that in the mirror. And then he's got his serious face, he's practiced that in the mirror. He's got his smile, he's practiced it. Everything he's practiced in the mirror, at some point. Or filmed himself and watched it back. But, definitely. And even if you watch a lot of these guys' very early films or screen tests and things, and compared to their latest things, they just become more and more and more refined.
Yeah. One worry that beginners, or people just entering into, or just starting out realizing they can get better with women, their worry is that they're going to have to change who they are. Yes. One of those big phrases, like their unchanging identity, they have to change their personality.
Yes.
So you're trying out different personalities, you're trying out different characters.
I changed completely. Sometimes I'm walking in Cambridge and there's someone that I recognise from school, and I'm like, and I'm like looking at them as if to start, and they just look at me like, why are you looking at me, and carry on walking. They literally don't remember me, because not just I look different, but I move differently, just everything is different. And I changed who I am. I'm not the same guy I was when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 25. Not the same guy here today. So I did change who I was. I wasn't myself. I didn't take that advice, just be yourself. And if you're not getting good results, you do need to change who you are, but not to become someone different or someone that you wouldn't want to be. I used to be in my house and I used to think, do I want to be, because when I read the game, I was like, I don't want to be a magician, and I don't really like being the centre of attention. I didn't crave that. I didn't want to be on stage. But I thought, what do I want to be? And I wanted to be a guy that could go into a room and there's 4 people talking, and I can kind of bust in and talk to them and make friends. Or there's a girl over there, I want to talk to her, go and talk to her. Or I just talk to someone, and when I leave they say, oh, he's a cool guy, he's interesting, something like that. So what I imagined was something that was, it would fit with my personality in some way. It wasn't being fake, it wasn't completely changing, but it was like unleashing, something that was inside me but I wasn't capable of. And the way to think about the healthy way for you to change is to imagine, what you'd ideally be like, and ideally act like. And obviously it wasn't going to be, me sitting in my house in 10 years, just, don't know anyone, or I talk to people when I leave and they say bad things about me. It was something, something different, but I could imagine it, it wasn't something that felt alien, it was still me.
Yeah, it's a great way to think of it. Like, in terms of being your ideal self, it's something we cover in the academy. And it's a different way that I'm teaching it now is to think of your ideal hero. Like if you could, not with like supernatural powers like the Avengers, but like who would you, if you could just like morph into your superhero, like what would it be, and what characteristics would you be? What would you be able to do, be, and have? and just list those out, and then systematically find ways to start working on those.
Because some you wouldn't want to have. You might not. I mean, who really wants to be someone that is, you know, on stage and, you know, doing things like this? It's not really a common thing. You don't want to be the center of attention. Some of you just want to, you know, have the social skills to be able to go and make people like them. It's not anything crazy.
Or to just find a really nice girlfriend.
Hey, if you like our video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and remember to like our Facebook fan page for videos only on Facebook.